Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marek Przor. I'm a team leader of cluster policy in DG GROW in the European Commission, and I have big pleasure to invite you today to the session on supply chain security and supply chain security in a special context of the war in Ukraine. This is not something we would like to have, but unfortunately this is what is happening, and we cannot avoid this topic. We haven't forgotten COVID-19 lockdown. We haven't forgotten the supply chain disruptions which it caused. We all remember February 2 years ago when we were looking for masks, we were looking for tubes, we were looking for finally vaccines and increasing the production. And then we have war in Ukraine, and again we have disruptions. We have energy issues, security of health, security of food. So a lot to discuss today. We have 55 minutes, so we will be very concise. Just to recall everyone that we have at this very moment the industrial policy strategy, which I want to recall you had three main policy objectives when we started. It was twin transition, green and digital transition. We had competitiveness of European industry at the global level, and we were talking about open strategic autonomy. And then came COVID, and it helped us realize how important resilience is, how important we need to prioritize this, and that's why the topics of this SME assembly is as well sustainable, digital, and resilient. So let me introduce our panelists. We have our guests from Ukraine, Olga Trofimova, who is the cluster manager of the automotive cluster in Kiev, but as well the representative of the Ukrainian Cluster Alliance. We have as well Olga Shubina, who is the representative of the Enterprise Europe Ukraine, but as well the representative of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Kiev. And we'll start with you the session, but as well we have our colleagues from the European Union. We have Anke Wiegand from Berlin, who is coordinator of EN Berlin, Enterprise Europe Network in Berlin. And as well, as far as I know, you are head of innovation in a very much startup environment in Berlin. So welcome here. And we have, I must admit, a nice colleague of mine who we learned remotely for 2 years. We were talking remotely when we were challenged with the ramping up the production of vaccines. We didn't know each other, and we learned through internet when Council of Bioregions helped us as well to bring SMEs on board in ramping up the production, and when we were organizing 3 matchmakings on vaccine and as well the therapeutics for vaccine. Welcome, Anais, and I think you can share with us the experience you had with value chains. And Montserrat, you are from BioCat, from Catalonia, in order to and in life science as well. You can share with us what we are already doing as a commission in order to tackle the issue of resilience. So without further prolonging the discussion, I would like to invite Olga to tell us what is happening.
Good question. Yeah. What is happening, I think all of you knows, but I would like to tell you and to show you actually how we react and how we were resilient to all these things which was started in February 2022. And actually, you know, the war has been started in 2014, actually. So, okay. So my 5 minutes started. I would like to show you some examples of resilience during the war. You were talking a lot about the resilience, about the supporting, how you support small and medium enterprises, and what are you doing to support them. I should say that when the war started, first of all, thank you for DG GROW. Thank you for European Cluster Alliance who support us, and we start to work together with EN, with Chamber of Commerce, and we started to to be resilient to the situation. And on 24th of March, exactly in 1 month when the war has been started, we founded Ukrainian Cluster Alliance with 16 clusters. And right now we do have 48 clusters. We are already member of European Cluster Alliance and TCI Network and EAT Manufacturing, and also we have already a lot of international and memorandum of understanding and so on and so forth, which I would like to show you a bit. What we do, first of all, of course, we do support our clusters. So we have a lot of actions, and first of all, of course, internationalization, because it was this first step what happened. Many companies stopped to operate, but I would like to tell you the truth, that some of them stopped only for 1 day. Some of them stopped only for 5 days. And that is why we support them to be more internationalized, to support them with some matchmaking, B2B meetings, with some exhibitions, and so on. And everything we were doing for free for them. Moreover, you know, the unique situation which is happening in Ukraine, without anybody's support, I mean, you know, poor of money or whatever, our companies become to be united with the problems which they have. And they didn't wait until somebody come and give them money or whatever. They start working, they start cooperate, because we did our choice. We want to be integrated into European society, into European ecosystem and worldwide ecosystem. We do not need Russian world. We do need to be integrated in a worldwide society. It was our choice, and that is why our small and medium enterprises play the really big role in this movement, and we are supporting them. So, again, we are quite a big country. We are still 30 million in a country which are left there, and there are a big migration inside, but we still have a good capacity. And do you know that our companies are working? And right now, I have these figures actually, that during the war, do you know how many new companies arrived? How many new companies founded? Guess. 150,000 new companies were established during the war. So this is exactly what is happening in Ukraine. We want to survive. We want to fight for our future. And we do not want to be begging. We do want to be your partners, to your reliable partners. That is why we are working hard. We are doing as many as we can. We support each other, we group between each other, and this is what is happening. Small example about our Ukrainian automotive and mobility cluster. Some of them stopped, yes, we know that we stopped OEMs at the beginning of the war, but it was only in the beginning of the March. Already in April, all companies were working on 100% of their capacities, and we haven't stopped any delivery. Right now, all companies are working, and can you imagine, it's 60,000 employees in the automotive sector. And we do supply for Volkswagen, for Mercedes, and for other companies, which now, unfortunately, would like to decrease their orders. Why? We are working, we have not stopped any delivery. And this is our also kind of example of resilience, because our Ukrainian automotive companies just participated in Wolfsburg in Automotive Supplier Summit, because we want to be to participate and to be the partners. So what we are doing? What actually we are doing? We are building ecosystem. We are building ecosystem in Ukraine which are decentralized, de-oligarchized, yes, and which are not corrupted, and which has this DNA of trust, transparency, no competition, cooperation, networking, and we support each other. So we are not asking for money from you. We ask for cooperation with you, to be your business partners. And this is also another example of such a networking, because we are not competing between each other. You know, before the war, we were, a lot of us even staying in this hall and participating in some common projects. We compete between each other. Right now, we don't. We do not compete with Olga. We do not compete with other organizations. We do for our companies the best what we can do. And another example, small example about another organization which I also represent, that we, before the war, we supported and we prepared, you know, experts, because it's also needed for our countries. We are lack of them. But since 24th of February, we made call for mobilization for Ukrainian experts, for Ukrainian consultants, and we start to volunteer for our small and medium enterprises. Can you imagine consultants, volunteers? But then we had a project support for companies, small and medium enterprises during the war. And right now we have supported 500 small and medium enterprises for free. And we did a lot of things supporting them and making kind of Uber emergency consulting, which is amazing, believe me. And when people got together and, you know, without any competition, trying to solve problem each other, how to relocate, how to export, how to solve other problems, you know. This is exactly what is happening in Ukraine. And this resilience and this, you know, this strong willingness of our small and medium enterprises to win the war, to survive and to be your reliable partners, I think definitely should be considered as a really you know, way of cooperation with us. And I'm sure most of you thinking right now about this reshoring, nearshoring, but I also would like to say about friendshoring. And definitely most of you understand, and definitely all of you are not neutral to everything what is happening in Ukraine. So please raise your hand who thinks that we should start already to network, to cooperate with Ukrainian SMEs now, to have a future for all of us. Thank you.
Olga, thank you very much. I'm completely amazed with all this half a year. We as well met on internet when the war started, and during this half a year, 48 cluster organizations, big already. The need created this collaboration spirit, and I'm so happy. And you are growing, because I mean, when we talked 2 weeks ago, it was 38. Weeks ago, it was 42, so people see that they need to link with the others when the crisis is. And you know, need is the mother of innovation. This Uber emergency consulting is something very much innovative in the consulting services. Olga, you are representing the organization which is supposed to support SMEs.
To support SMEs in Ukraine, and so I'm also the representative of the Ukraine network. So first of all, I want to say thank you for this possibility to give some more information regarding our business, regarding our activity in Ukraine. And also I want to say that nobody knows that we are GitHub 24th of February in the war period. It was a rather big challenge for everybody. It was a rather big challenge for business. Also, it was a rather big challenge for business support organization, because everybody knows that we need to make some changes in our services, some changes in our system, how to support our business in this situation, because we need to support not only SMEs, we need to support our economy. And we need to be alive, and we need to stay strong in this situation. So I will try to begin my presentation. And first of all, I want to say that the war in Ukraine has catalyzed enormous disruption for business and economy in Ukraine and all around the world, not only in our country, but it was affected the global situation in the world. We have the supply chain disruption, reducing production capacity, raising the prices of commodities, and exploitation of the alternative sources of production, delivery and flowing from Africa and from other regions of the world. And in that case, we need to change our services. And since the first day of the war, the CCI system in Ukraine didn't suspend its activities. Instead of that, we became the system who was support business, and we try to support business with our business support organization, with the business support organization who are working in Ukraine. And we make new services. We launched the hotline. We are providing services for relocation, because we have a lot of companies who try to relocate their business from the most affected regions to the most selling places, and to continue to provide their services and to continue to manufacture their products and goods. And also we're providing services of internationalization and finding partners, because we think that this will help to build our supply chains. And we need to build our activities. We need to build our chains. We need to build our system. And also, I need to say that today export is gradually recovering. That is also support rebuilding supply chains, establishing relations with the European partners, and looking for alternative ways of selling and delivering products. And I want to say that free trade with the European Union and agreement of providing the grain corridors support Ukraine on its way of pre-war export performance. And during the grain initiative, more than 5.5 million tons of agricultural products were exported only from 3 ports of Ukraine. It's rather good results, I think so. So now Ukrainian companies is looking for new opportunities, and some of them looking for a new market, but most of them, they are looking for new clients. From 2016, the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and Industry represents the EN network in Ukraine, and since this time we are coordinate this activity in Ukraine with other partners. We have 8 organizations who support SMEs and innovation companies. Also, we support the process of digitalization in Ukraine. And in the frame of the project, we can promote our companies through the partner organization of 69 countries. And so we guide companies to find more sustainable models of business. We support them with rules and conditions in entering international markets. We also enhance their capacity in innovation activities and digitalization. Every week, we receive more than 100 requests from the Ukrainian companies in searching new partners and entering new markets. We support them with the possibility of EN network with its tools. It's rather great pleasure that the European Commission and DG GROW support us in this struggle for our independence, in the struggle to help our business in our each-day work. Since the 10th of June, we started, with the European Commission, we started the EU-Ukraine Solidarity Lane Business B2B matchmaking platform. This platform supports Ukrainian business in the process of finding new ways for delivering products, to finding some new ways for logistics. It's rather popular in Ukraine right now, and more than 870 companies registered on this platform, and we have the matchmaking. We have more than 300 meetings between Ukrainian and European partners. Also, our companies use the supply chain resilience platform that was supported by our partners from the Lithuanian consortium. And last but not least, I want to say thank you. Thank to all of you. Thank from all Ukrainian people, from all our business, that you can support us. I think that even a small step on the way on our common struggle in this struggle for independence will put our victory. Thank you. Thank you. І слава Україні!
Olga, thank you very much. And I would like to recall you that you can put questions on the website, and we welcome as well the people who are on site, who joined us after the lunch, and as well the ones who are in internet following our session. But Olga, both Olgas, before I pass the floor to our colleagues from the European Union, I would like to ask you one thing, because we have very often questions from the business, European business, about how can you ensure business continuity in such extreme circumstances as war? And this is, of course, increasing the risk of having the operations and collaborate with you. How would you respond to this question to our SMEs from the EU or enterprises which would like to collaborate with you?
You mean we can answer now?
Yes, please.
I think that everybody needs to be sure that right now we have the not quite good situation with our situation in our country, but our business is ready to be and to continue their activity. They're rather good in export operations, and a lot of companies, they relocate their business from the affected part of the countries, and they still continue to produce products and services good quality. And right now we have the great opportunity to present it through the EN network. We also have the possibility to present it with our network and to present it with the exhibitions. And I think that everybody needs to be sure that our business is still reliable, and we can work, and we want to work, and we have a lot of possibilities to, we have the small problems with logistic, but in total, it's not a big problem, and we can. And so, with your support, with the support of European Commission, we can solve these problems. It's really so. So, it's.
And Olga, I remember when we first started, it was about humanitarian aid, and then actually it happened that people were moving first from east to west, but there was a big will for continuing operations in Ukraine rather than moving outside. Yep. Olga, you have experienced this, no?
Yes, and moreover, I should say, they're not just stopped and waiting. Please do understand, they're working every day, even in these circumstances. They just, they just understand what does it mean agile and flexible production in Ukrainian way of agile and flexible production, because their agile depends on missiles, yes, and this time between these attacks. And their flexible production right now depends on the schedule of electricity, but they are working. And again, even, the most strictest automotive, they haven't stopped any delivery. So they're not just waiting and ready for future. They're working and they're building their future.
And I also want to say that we have our banking system is also working, and we have no problems with the payments or with the currency, and all our producers, they are working in a full day mode. So they are working till the midnight. They have no pause in in their activities. So I think that everybody needs to understand that yes, we have a war, but we also have a war on our economy, in our economy sector. So every day we have struggle for our independence, and every day we have struggle to stay alive and to bring our economy on the new level. We are cooperate with the new markets. We are looking for new partners. We are try to make the partnering agreements, and we want to say that we are still reliable, we are good partners, and we have a good product with a high quality.
And small remark, here in our ZAL there is also dear business and representatives of our export promotion office, and I saw yesterday the news that this week there were a new contract for Ukrainian businesses who start to work with Danish co-op or supermarket chains. So even new contracts are coming every day. So this is what we are working for.
Thank you to you for a moment. We will continue with the Q&A after the session. We move now to European Union Berlin. We know that the case of war probably is the most extreme to have resilience, but I think Enterprise Europe Network has undertaken the actions in order to prepare for our businesses for resilience, and I know you worked on some report. Anke, if you can say something about how we are preparing for resilience.
Yes, thank you, Marek. Also from my side, a big thank you for inviting me, representing the whole crowd of EN colleagues here on the panel, and also respect and deep appreciation for what you have been doing in the last months. And of course, it's not easy to start now with a reflection from the other side, let me say it like that, because in the first months after that 24 February 2020, we all were busy with engagement for solidarity actions and humanitarian aid. But after a certain while, DG GROW invited a group of Enterprise Europe Network colleagues to reflect a little bit about the question, what do we mean when we talk about SME resilience? Which I think it's evident that it's needed more than ever in these days, and also to prepare for the upcoming months and years than ever in our business support structures. And we found out that it's above all for SMEs, from an SME perspective, the ability to survive, to adapt and to thrive despite challenges, being agile and flexible, as you explained it so expressively. And this means we need to strengthen the abilities of SMEs to withstand disruptions, to be in a situation from one day to the other where your world is not the one you experienced the day before. And it means also to withstand to catastrophic events. We have the catastrophic fires, we have the floods in Europe due to the impact of the climate change. And against all these threats, we need to strengthen the ability to sustain income in our SMEs and to develop a spirit of social duty and cultural attitudes to withstand these barriers and to develop a new culture of resilience, like we called it in the group, to come in a different way together and to master these challenges. And of course, it are dimensions in terms of business, in terms of social criteria, in terms of geography and also demography that we need to consider when we are talking about resilience. Having defined that, we reflected a little bit what happened during the last 2.5 years. We had the COVID-19, we had the Russian aggression against the Ukraine with the impact of the supply chain crisis in both dramatic situations. We are experiencing right now an energy crisis, and we need to prepare for cyber shocks. It's a topic that we need to be aware of, that in our everyday life of digital video calls and digital co-working, what happens if we are interrupted by these means of communication. And the EN itself really developed strong responses on these threats. But to become a clearer picture, we carried out over summer in August and September an EN coordinator survey. You know, the EN is anchored in each region with consortia, and we asked the coordinators questions: what are the biggest challenges for SMEs in their specific region, from their viewpoint, and when working with the clients. And I think the sectors that were hit most are the tourism and sector, the energy-related sectors, and the last one I cannot read, I have to turn myself, and the sudden inflation due to the rising prices. These were the three main criteria that our colleagues raised when doing that survey. And then we asked another questions about comparing EN regions closer to the conflict zone against regions that are more far away from the conflict, if there would be changes in the answers. And what we found out is that EU countries neighboring to the Ukraine and the conflict zone suffer more from the rising energy situation and cost situation than other EU countries. We also found out that those countries or regions closer to the conflict are more affected by the inflation than other EU countries. The massive rise in energy cost I already mentioned. And there was a very interesting phenomenon. The regions directly neighboring the conflict zone had no problem with climate change. So maybe we made something wrong in our survey, but this was something that we need to follow up if it's really like that, that only the rest of the EU is conscious about climate change. What does that mean for the EN business support services for SMEs? We discussed it and came to the conclusion that we need to change the way to ask our clients questions, quite simply, because so far we were discussing with our clients about new products, new services, new projects on national level or on European level. But now it is the situation of the client itself, its existence and its capacity to survive. And this is something that will lead us not to do completely new things, but to do things, ask questions, listen to the client in some sort of changed perspective. Resilience questions cover some different aspects, like the questions that we pose to our clients in the normal work. It might sound silly, but really to get a picture is doing the active listening exercise and then start with the client working on solutions and what could help him to survive the situation, to find a more systematic approach. And here I want to mention that in the group we had a very strong cooperation between colleagues from Greece, from Thessaloniki, from the Industrial Entrepreneurs Association there, but also with the Praxi Network. We were also strongly supported by the Chamber of Commerce in Munich and by an innovation advisor from Hessen, from Wiesbaden, and other colleagues from Spain, France, Belgium. And we found out that a tool that has been developed with the UNESCO, the so-called business future-proofing tool, could be something that helps us in the EN services to ask exactly these questions that I mentioned. With that, I want to stop, and I want to thank all members of the group, but especially Katarina Cicino from Thessaloniki, my co-colleague and co-chair and mate in organizing the work of this group. She cannot be here, but I wanted to show you at least her picture. So she was my closest colleague over the last months. Thank you.
Thank you, Anke, for this overview of what Enterprise Europe Network is doing in order to prepare intermediate organizations to help in resilience. Just to complete what you said in clusters, the survey when we did, it indicated that diversification is one of the most important elements for SMEs to find new clients, find new input providers, and localization closer to where they are.
Yes.
So reshoring. These were two elements besides all the elements of funding and so on. Thank you, Anke. Anais, you experienced this work on resilience during the lockdown. Can you share with us experience at that time?
Yes, can you? Yeah, perfect. So thank you, Marek, for the introduction. Yes, it seems that we live in a constant storm for quite a few years now. I must say, I went through another one myself, apart from the COVID. But anyways, what I'm going to present today is I represent a network. It's called Council of European Bioregion. It's a cluster association. Maybe I can just, yeah. So we're about 40 plus clusters across Europe, working in the life science sector. So that's what we do. We connect, I connect the different ecosystem across. And I also wanted to mention that today I'm also coming from the European Clusters Alliance. So a bigger alliance, Olga already mentioned, of clusters in many different sectors. So what happened, obviously, it seems like COVID is so far away because we're already in the second, third, fourth crisis, unfortunate, obviously. But basically the key elements, first of all, I would say cooperation. Obviously, everybody was working a little bit in their own field, in their own sector, with their own companies, but not coming out so much. And then all of a sudden, there was nothing, so we're all running for, as Mark said at the beginning, for masks, for tubes, for many little things. And we started to actually gather, it was every morning. By the way, I gained rain calls for that because I woke up very early during many sessions. So I'll blame that on DigiGrow. But anyways, so the cluster cooperation started to work very efficiently. Every morning, people from everywhere in Europe were actually on a call to discuss, what can you do? What can we do? What can you bring on the table? Whose company is there that we can help? And I think this is hopefully happening also with Ukraine and with the crisis, but what I think main lesson learned here is cooperate. I mean, Europe is about cooperation. And this is where I think it was different maybe from other places that we really worked together. The matchmaking was the second, I think, kind of coming out of all these sessions that we made, and we're like, okay, we need vaccine development, so we need to put smaller companies, because we all know about the big pharmas, but there are a lot of small companies that are the main innovators in the biomedicine sector. So we did co-organize, obviously, with DigiGrow, with ECA, with CBER, and many other clusters, matchmaking events. And there it was very interesting, actually, to see companies, again, from everywhere in Europe actually getting together. I will leave a good example to after if we have time, but some companies that were dedicated to animal health actually switched and were able to put their production line for human health. They're in the work of vaccine development. But this is an example that came out, I think, of all of this. I would say that the work afterwards is where is the supply chain being cut? Where are the disruptions? How can we anticipate them? Which is the current, the work in progress, let's say. But it seems we're really put into practice with all coming up. And then I would say, again, putting all the actors around the table, which is, I think, and now I preach for my, my clusters, but I think this is where clusters are key enablers, because we connect different people from the hospital, the research centers, the companies, obviously the SMEs, the startup, but also the big ones, because we cannot just work on our own to find solutions. It really has to be connected. And so key outcomes, I put a few examples here. I'm sure the presentation will be available, but between others, some report on disruption. Obviously, on the EU cluster collaboration platform, there is a dedicated space for Ukraine. There was some matchmaking events, collaboration labs. So this is a work obviously in progress, but I think it really shows the fact that connecting and networking and really supporting each other will help to find solutions and enable crisis. So just a conclusion, so cross-sector collaboration for me is key, because we work in health, but again, there are, for example, agricultural, agro-food, and then it's related somehow to also health. So cross-sector, cross-country, as I said before, clusters are good connectors, and I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I actually appreciate the work of the clusters too on my entrepreneurial side. Again, I think it's been discussed, but we can anticipate better disruptions if we look better at the supply chain and then have, let's say, whistleblowers. No? So this is some things that I think are being worked on and that will help us to solve, hopefully not too many, but crises to come. And strategy sectors, I mean, have to be supported. I think we have to not prioritize, but focus and support those that really need more support in times of crisis. So I try to be in my 5 minutes. Yeah. So
I thank you. We switch immediately to Montserrat. I invite you for putting questions on internet. Montserrat, you can tell us about what is happening already in order to.
Yes, thank you. And I will join Olga, just standing, because I probably don't see enough the screen behind. So I'd like to thank also for inviting us to explain what we do at BioCat on terms of resilience for Europe. Let's say probably that I'm just going to focus on EU-funded projects, and those are instruments that are beautiful instruments to support better the SMEs at the ecosystems and to provide with the new insights that we need to find programs, to find services, and to really, everyday support of what our stakeholders need. Let me just recall some words yesterday were said at the Schumpeter's lecture by Professor Luc Soete, that he said that we have to focus on missions and not be neutral about that, and that's what we try to be here. So this is a tool that we also, and I just want to refer to Anke's tool because I found it very inspiring as well. This is something that we just use internally to identify not anymore which are the current needs of our ecosystem. I think after the COVID crisis and the Ukraine war and everything that we've been going through these past 2 years, we know that we cannot just focus on current needs. We have to focus on the future challenges. We have to focus on resilience. This is a word that we've been introducing in our everyday speeches. And this is what we try to do, answering to tomorrow's needs also through these EU-funded projects. So we just, and forgive me because it's quite small, but probably we see it better here. We just focus on the challenges that we have now, like in talent, funding, tech transfer, etc. But then we just to cross that with the EU policies that are put in place just to support us in these transitions, like the twin transformation and working for impact, for resilience, for having a better recovery and not disruption of value chains, and also the tech sovereignty in Europe. But also we have the industry trends and the digitalization, the telemedicine, advanced therapies for better healthcare. Those have to be tackled as well. So this is how we just focus on the new projects that we can also apply for. And this is a little bit of what we've come with in the last months. We are, and this is answering to your question, Marek, actually, how we can do that with collaboration, through collaboration. And I think these are very important to see what Europe needs, not just looking at what you need as a cluster organization, but what Europe needs for you to build on resilience across all the European innovation ecosystem. And I want just to refer to a couple of those more than the others, because there's one, biomanufacturing for recovery and resilience. This is Bioman for R2. And this is a Euroclusters initiative. Then I will also refer to a couple of European innovation ecosystem projects that we have. And this is the first one, Bioman for R2. This puts on the table really instruments and vouchers and support and cascade funding for companies, because this tries to build on the resilience that Europe needs in terms of value chain disruption, but for the biomanufacturing sector, which is actually one of the key sectors that has to be taken care of in terms of Europe's sovereignty, tech sovereignty, has been identified as one of the relevant sectors. And this project, this Euroclusters project, and Marek knows about that because we've been talking about this project, just tackles this. First, mapping, analyzing gaps, needs that the SMEs, in face of the larger companies that probably do not face the same challenges, SMEs might need. So we need to map providers, we need to map services, we need to map needs, and then provide with this platform for meeting, for matchmaking, for finding these providers, and then providing with vouchers for them to apply to these innovation funds or business transformation vouchers. So this is what we do, and Council of European Bioregions is a partner here, so that allows us to cover all European landscape, plus the partners that are already in place and that you see probably in this picture. But the next one, and this is very quickly, I will refer to that because this is about cluster exchanges. And I'm happy to say that we're talking with the Ukrainian clusters to be part of this and participate in this cluster exchange and visit our ecosystem to find more connections and also start building these partnerships also with our companies, our stakeholders. And this is about cluster organizations capacity building and also providing new services. It's always about new services with a look at what SMEs and stakeholders will need in the future. This is for us very important because we had one commitment that is linking this project to the Czech presidency, to all the EU presidencies in 2-year time. So we are here also to connect our EDA project. Council of European Bioregions is also there. And what we intend to do here is understand better which are the gaps in the deployment of European health data space at EU level. So we are building on the case studies, and we are also linking to the EU presidencies to put this European health data space as a key element for SMEs resilience in the health sector on the priority agendas for those presidencies. This is the next thing to do also, at least for the health sector. This is what we are representing here today. And finally, because someone talked about which is the impact of what we're doing for the ecosystem, we think that it's very important being able to map these landscapes that we have, but also have metrics for the impact assessment of our services. And we were talking about that with Anke before, because we are providing services, we are providing programs, but we don't know if those are the right ones and which is the impact we're getting or the ecosystem is getting from there. So at the end of the day, it's about that, is fostering this interconnectedness, this inclusiveness, this resilience across the EU landscape. We are doing that with this, what I say again, beautiful instruments that we, at the same time, need to advocate for, but we also need to transform if necessary to find better instruments for our SMEs in terms of support, vouchers, programs, and connection and collaboration. So thank you very much, and this is my email in case anyone wants to know more about that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists for the presentations. I would like to ask if there is any questions from the audience to our panelists on the security of supply and on the basis of the presentations. If not, I have a question here through internet, questions to Olga, both Olgas. Is there anything you think that the EU can do to restore the Ukrainian-EU trade interrupted by the war? Actually, I need to compliment it, because actually the trade with Ukraine is again on the same level as it used to be before the Second World War, which is not before the war started in February. But I think the question is about trust here, no?
Good question. I mean, do you know the answer for this question? I mean, support whatever you want, whatever you can. So any support is acceptable and really appreciated. But what we do right now, that we do not really have in business a lot of support. So our SMEs do not have any support. So they're surviving by their own or cooperating between each other. This is the support which we do. And if you could stimulate it, exactly this cooperation, not competitive, not competition building, but cooperation building, networking and matchmaking building, would be great, because if you do in other way, I mean, it could be damage question of trust.
Yeah, I also want to say that any support now is good. Any support. And this is not only support from the side of the European partners, but it's also support from our side, from the side of business support organization, because we need to support, we can support with the tools that we have from the European partners, and we can help to find new partners, we can find some new opportunities, we can try to find some partners to invest in Ukraine, to invest in some kind of business to the manufacturers. So any support will be preferred. And also we have some right big problem with the electricity right now, and we need this support also. We need support from this side of the European partners, just not to stop our business, not to stop our manufacturing. So.
Before we finish, then Anke, you have the report, but what are next steps?
Yes, I think the process is ongoing to discuss it with the colleagues in the network. There will be 2 further meetings in December with experts from other areas like sustainability, digitization, innovation management, to really get out what is in there for resilience. And in February next year, the Greek colleagues in Thessaloniki will invite network colleagues to have a training on capacity building regarding new methodologies in resilient SME support. And regarding the question how to support Ukraine in actual these days as winter is ahead, if you allow me, I would like to make a plea for the donation campaign of energy equipment, which is currently running. Maybe you will want to...
We will come to this. But
okay.
before, Anais Montserrat, for SME relief package, from the experience you have, what would you suggest?
For me, we discussed actually in a session this morning, but I think for SME, a keyword would be easier. Access, meaning that there are a lot of help. We talked about projects, funding, and so on. But for an SME, when you work in a concrete field, if you start looking at the administrative burden that actually asking for some support represent, then sometimes you actually don't even go there. So I mean, it's always a big wish. It's on the list, but to make it easier and also maybe more targeted, because not everybody is looking for the same for the same support. Some companies, especially in our sector, is a lot about the skilled workers that we lack. So, I mean, again, I think, but easier would be one, and for relief, some very more, let's say, like we do in health, personalized medicine, then maybe a bit more personalized support for the SMEs, because they don't need all the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and very quickly, it's not only about funding, but it's about easing the ways to access to this funding and to help them also connect and internationalize to find other markets and to access other markets. That's also a good help for some of SMEs that have not the same tools and possibilities that larger companies have. So think on SMEs perspective.
Thank you very much. If I may, the switch.
Yes.
The reason why we had this session on a very snapshot of things, which is networking, in order to deal with the supply chain resilience, because we have lots of policy tools which can deal with, and I would recommend you OECD framework on resilience, which was built during the lockdown. But here there's element which you mentioned. It's not about funding only, but if you want to diversify input suppliers, if you want to diversify the scope of your activities, if you want to diversify your client base, then networking is essential. And in crisis, it shows both in the case of Ukraine and as well it was in the lockdown, the good trust and work between people who know each other or who want to find out the others who can help is essential, and it's not only funding. So I would conclude with this, but before I conclude, let me invite you to register to the Supply Chain Resilience Platform, which we launched. So every SME, whenever the problems are, you can find on this platform potential partners for collaboration in firefighting when you have issue in supply chain problem, or you want to build the strategic relations. And last but not least, we know someone estimated 16,000 missiles tried to land in Ukraine. 40% of electricity infrastructure in Ukraine is already destroyed, and there's a big plea to support them, to deliver generators, transformers, and there is Ukraine emergency support run by the Energy Community Secretariat. It's very easy. If you want to donate anything from you are producing or you want to sell, you contact the Energy Community Secretariat. This is the email. They deal with all the logistics. They will organize transport. What is needed is a goodwill to offer the electrical equipment, which is very much needed in Ukraine at this moment, and this is part of resilience. Thank you very much for our panelists. I think we can make a big applause to our panelists. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for attention. And I think I will invite you for a short break now. Thank you.